we are introduced to the incredibly charismatic Dan, who is more than a car salesman. He is a virtuoso of human psychology. You must witness him at work because he intuits precisely what clients desire, earning him Salesman of the Month once more. His success serves as a motivating introduction to his character. Next, his co-worker Hal makes the most ostentatious arrival imaginable, driving like a complete daredevil. Hall sincerely thinks that automobiles, much like people, possess a profound instinctual need for velocity, which is quite an outlandish belief. The other employees, however, consider him eccentric, and their assessment may be accurate. Dan departs from his job early, eager to commemorate his anniversary. It is abundantly obvious that he deeply treasures his family and their delightfully peaceful suburban existence. He and his spouse Jessica have 3 wonderful children, Nina, Kyle, and the precious little Max. Nina delivers some genuinely stunning news. She intends to follow her boyfriend to Iowa and change her field of study. This is heartbreaking because she has forsaken her phenomenal journalistic ambitions, much to her parents' complete distress. Concurrently, Kyle is having difficulty connecting with his father. He can hardly utter a syllable and opts to retreat to his friend Samir's home instead. This occurs just after Dan expresses disapproval of his gaming hobby. Dan is simply attempting to be a good father, explaining to Kyle that virtual combat all day is not particularly wholesome. A tremendously heated dispute then erupts between Nina and Kyle over who must watch Max. Dan intervenes and delegates the sitting duties to Nina, creating noticeable strain. He proposes it could be beneficial for Kyle to leave the house, which appears sensible at first glance. Nina grudgingly accepts, but she is concealing immense exasperation because she fully suspects Kyle's true motives. Kyle then travels to Samir's home and gives him $200 as a rental payment. The reason for the payment is that he possesses a hidden gaming station in the garage. Without his family's knowledge, Kyle is an internet phenomenon, a hugely famous streamer known as Killboy. He is celebrated for his considerable talent in shooter games. Dan and Jessica share a tradition. They commemorate their anniversary annually by visiting a fair. As they are queuing for a roller coaster, something unexpected occurs. Some young men are watching a Killboy broadcast, and they are utterly mesmerized by the excitement. They are so absorbed that they permit Dan and Jessica to move ahead of them in the queue. Dan is enjoying this special time, but Jessica seems to yearn for more adventure in her life. She notes his predictable nature, even jesting that their intimate moments are reserved for Thursdays. Following a truly electrifying roller coaster ride, Dan makes the kindest vow to make their excursions less routine. In a beautifully gentle moment as they embrace, their tranquility is utterly destroyed. Some inconsiderate person takes a picture of them without any consent at all. Dan approaches the man, courteously requesting he erase it, but the situation worsens terribly. The youth scoffs at him, uploads the picture, and labels Dan a failure. Jessica pleads with Dan to disregard it, but the agitator then douses Dan with his beverage. He even jeers at Jessica about being with a coward, provoking Dan further. Dan grapples with his anger, yet he turns away. On their journey home, Jessica reassures Dan she did not desire a fight, aware of his profound dislike of conflict. Still, she seems to experience a sense of disappointment in him. Once home, Dan contemplates the entire dreadful event while skillfully changing his son's nappy. He heads to bed to find Jessica already slumbering, and he murmurs that he should have taught that man a lesson. This causes Jessica to chuckle, creating a brief moment of connection between them. Noticing her husband's letdown, she expresses regret for her response. The following day, Jessica is releasing all her frustrations during a kickboxing session. It is there she initiates a discussion with a woman named Gwen. While striking a heavy bag, she shares her worries about their adolescent daughter and her own life. Jessica then reveals her feelings of being completely confined and exasperated by Dan's satisfaction with their ordinary life. She fondly recalls her younger ambitions to journey and explore the globe. Gwen, who happens to be a travel consultant, presents a potential solution. An errant punch from Jessica connects with Gwen's face, yet it forges a surprising connection over blended drinks. When Gwen must depart, she hands Jessica her business card, offering a possible exciting getaway. Afterward, while shopping with infant Max, Dan observes a highly questionable man eyeing him keenly. The man abruptly rushes at him, and Dan responds with incredible speed. Dan asks the attacker to let him set his infant down first. However, the aggressor is totally relentless, displaying absolutely no compassion. Even while holding Max, Dan expertly subdues the assailant in a breathtaking exhibition of prowess. Every bystander is stunned by what they have just observed. Heading home, Dan maneuvers through the streets with a fresh intensity, attracting inquisitive glances from his neighbors. They notice that something about him has shifted. At his residence, Dan discovers a staggering hidden compartment containing firearms and expired passports. There are also large piles of money inside. Totally panicked, he instantly reaches out to Augie, a past colleague, to organize new identities for his family. He discloses that they are in grave danger. Augie provides the frightening information that Dan's former superior, McCaffrey, has been searching the globe for him. Dan worries the picture shared online has exposed his whereabouts. He proposes an astounding $500,000 for new documentation, arranging a rendezvous in Las Vegas in only 3 days. Augie is utterly stunned that his family is completely unaware Dan was a professional hitman. He implores Dan to reveal the truth because fleeing will be nearly impossible without it. Dan starts swiftly packing his family's possessions in a frenzied, urgent hurry. He bursts into his children's school, disrupting an editorial conference to locate Nina. A peer tells him she has not held the editor position for 3 months. He presents her with $100 for Nina's whereabouts, and she instantly directs him to the stands. He locates Nina there and voices his deep dismay over her forsaking her journalistic ambitions. There is no moment to linger, however, as they must collect her brother from his chess group. At the meeting place, Dan is additionally disheartened to discover that Kyle has also left his pursuit. They proceed to Samir's home, where Dan unearths the incredible truth of Kyle's hidden streaming existence. Dan tells his children they are headed to Las Vegas and must display only sheer enthusiasm. He coerces them, stating he will expose all their deceptions to Jessica if they fail to comply. At Jessica's office, Dan employs his fantastic persuasive skills to convince her to take this impromptu journey. Jessica is bewildered, but also remarkably impressed by this fresh, bold side of her husband. She enthusiastically consents, and as they get ready to depart, Dan notices a menacing black vehicle outside. He implores Jessica to depart at once, and as they leave the parking area, McCaffrey's crew materializes. Dan expertly eludes the chasers, concocting the most imaginative tales to justify his sudden maneuvers. He keeps his family unaware of the danger they face. Discovering a tracker in his vehicle, Dan swiftly pilots it into his work dealership. He barely shuts the gates on the chasers in a tense moment. In a swift effort to conceal his motives, he hoists the car with his family remaining inside. He alleges he must change the oil, and while beneath the auto, he locates and detaches the device. It is an instance of quick thinking and courage. Noticing his coworker Hal, Dan prompts him to test a new vehicle at maximum velocity. He covertly fastens the device to Hal's car, creating a diversion. The chasers are totally fooled, pursuing Hal down the highway at incredible velocities. With 33 hours remaining to reach Vegas, Dan executes another daring action. He gathers all their phones, announcing a technology-free journey to the complete dismay of his children. He then hurls all the devices from the window, initiating a technology-free trip. For the first time in ages, the family truly starts to connect. They all begin singing Vanilla Ice's Ice Ice Baby, creating a memorable family moment. Concurrently, the intimidating McCaffrey himself inspects Dan's now vacant home. His technology specialist uncovers Kyle's identity as the famous streamer Killboy. McCaffrey commands all his agents to find and intercept their vehicle at once. During a break, Kyle is identified by an admirer who requests a photo with him. Dan, discovering his son is a famous gamer and the image will be shared online, realizes they are in greater peril. He informs the family all the lodgings are taken and they must continue their journey overnight. McCaffrey then hires a regional motorcycle group to hunt Dan down. As they approach a bridge, Dan readies himself for a confrontation. He places headphones on his slumbering family so they stay entirely oblivious to the coming mayhem. He skillfully attempts to lose the riders while his family's heads wobble like figurines on a dashboard. His mirror is shattered, yet he succeeds in disabling one rider, narrowly averting a collision. Only infant Max is conscious, and he is enjoying himself immensely, even offering his father a bottle as a weapon. After traveling through the night, the family awakens near the university Nina wishes to attend. Nena persuades them to visit, and Jessica, eager to bond, resolves to show her the true college experience. An undergraduate confuses Jessica for a fellow student and presents her with a beer from a keg. Jessica, remembering her athletic history, chooses to demonstrate her fabled keg stand abilities. She performs it flawlessly, dazzling everyone, including an astonished Nina. Afterward, Dan notices another questionable man and initiates a peculiar conversation with him in German. He is abruptly assaulted by a separate agent in a chemistry lab while his family tours the adjacent room. Following a short but fierce struggle, Dan disables the attacker and returns to his family as if nothing occurred. Nena then finds her boyfriend Trevor being unfaithful. Rather than lecturing, Dan shows her an ingenious martial arts technique to cause discomfort without permanent injury. Nina employs the technique on Trevor, and it lifts her morale in the most wonderful fashion. They reach Las Vegas and settle into one of the most opulent suites in the whole city. Dan heads downstairs to see Augie, who gives him the new documents and airline tickets. He intends to finally reveal the truth to Jessica during a romantic meal. He directs the children not to depart the suite, but they do not listen. Kyle, as a renowned gamer, proposes visiting the HyperX gaming arena, and Nina grudgingly accompanies him. At the venue, Kyle is requested to substitute for a professional and join Valkyrie's team for the Call of Duty Championship. As this unfolds, Dan attempts to confess to Jessica in an elegant French eatery. He is repeatedly disturbed, so he begins detailing his whole former life as a hitman in French. Jessica comprehends nothing but finds his words incredibly musical and alluring. They return to the suite, where Dan is briefly deceived by mannequins arranged to resemble sleeping children. As Jessica creates a romantic mood, Dan spots laser sights just in time to evade a volley of shots. A huge battle erupts, and he employs a bottle of tequila to ignite the attackers. Jessica is seized as a hostage, and the harsh truth dawns on her when the captor calls Dan by his actual name, Sean. The attacker discloses a scheme for his partner to eliminate their children at HyperX. Dan disables him, but the trauma causes Jessica to be sick. They speed to the gaming venue and get there just as Kyle claims victory in the competition in a flash of glory. As they flee, Dan at last discloses the complete, incredible reality of his history. The children are skeptical until they are instantly fired upon by another soldier of fortune. Now, with the secret exposed, the family feels totally and profoundly deceived by 18 years of falsehoods. Jessica makes the crushing choice to leave him and contacts her friend Gwen for assistance. However, when they reach the airstrip, they walk straight into a snare. Gwen is there with a private plane, and she discloses she was employed by Dan's former superior the entire time. She is not merely an agent, she is his former girlfriend whom he left for Jessica. McCaffrey materializes, having effectively apprehended Dan's whole family. He sets up a rendezvous with Dan in a deserted hotel where a major revelation occurs. McCaffrey is not simply his former superior, he is Dan's biological father. He desires Dan's return to the family enterprise, and if Dan declines, his family will perish. Dan sorrowfully consents, but as his family is escorted away, they resolve to resist. In a resourceful maneuver, Jessica shoves Max's soiled nappy into a goon's face. She hurls him from the elevator. The family is now attempting to rescue their father. Kyle's admirer, the tech specialist, assists them, and Kyle operates a drone to become his father's remote observer. An incredible concluding battle follows, with Dan dispatching minions everywhere. Kyle skillfully directs him through the pandemonium, demonstrating his gaming talents are immensely useful. Jessica enters a confrontation with Gwen. Although she is initially overpowered, she absolutely never surrenders. Dan confronts his own father in a deeply sentimental and physical clash. Jessica ultimately vanquishes Gwen by hurling a bamboo pole like a spear, which is so inventive. Nana then cleverly diverts her grandfather with a sincere speech about desiring a family. This provides Dan the ideal chance to disarm McCaffrey and conclude the conflict permanently. The family is at last genuinely reunited, more powerful and connected than they have ever been. 6 months afterward, everyone is flourishing in their new, truthful existences. They are preparing to set off on a family journey to bring Nina to Stanford. In a new custom, they all voluntarily surrender their phones for the trip. It is a symbol of their new bond and values. Dan launches a fantastic new security firm, even employing his old friend Augie. Jessica becomes an instructor, at last embracing her own interests and abilities. Kyle remains a huge streaming celebrity, but now with his family's complete encouragement. Nana becomes a renowned journalist after revealing McCaffrey's whole hitman network. Her debut major story is a significant piece of investigative reporting. The family has genuinely discovered their joy by accepting every facet of their identities. Their journey was packed with peril, yet it forged a stronger bond between them. It is a tale of a family finding each other again through adversity. The family's shared struggle makes their journey compelling.